the honourable member for Nanaimo Ladysmith.
It's rare that a member of this House has to begin a speech with a trigger warning, Mr. Speaker. But while some of what I'm about to describe is difficult to hear, it's necessary if we are to fully comprehend why we must act on intimate partner violence. For far too many people in this country, intimate partner violence is not a topic. It is a lived reality. This speech and this bill are dedicated to the victims of intimate partner violence who are watching today. It's dedicated to the family of Bailey McCourt and to all those who did not get the luxury of turning away from what I am about to describe because these memories that I share today are theirs. Memories of being held down as the air is squeezed from your lungs. Complete control over your comings and goings. Repeated blows and beatings. A knife used in a moment of rage. Threats, isolation, abuse of children and pets, the shouting, the quiet calm before the rage, the knowing what that look means, figuring out how to get the kids out of the room, as if that means they won't hear, rape, violence, death, at home, in the very place that should have been the safest. It levels me every time I think about it, Mr. Speaker, and we have to think about it in this place. Some make it through. Some find the strength to speak. We saw that just days ago at the Justice Committee, where a survivor described with clarity and composure how control is built piece by piece until there's almost nothing left of the vibrant woman that once was. We saw it in the Status of Women Committee testimony around this bill. But too many people do not make it through, Mr. Speaker. Bailey McCourt, for whom this bill is named, is dead, unable to speak, killed by a person who was supposed to love and protect her, hours after he was released on bail. So we must speak for Bailey, and more than that, we must act. Bill C-225 is not symbolic, Mr. Speaker. It is a response to a growing and serious problem. We know the numbers do not tell the full story. We know that many cases go unreported. Fewer than 1/3 of victims report to police, which means that what police see is only a fraction of what is actually happening. Even less is reported on in our communities, which means that what we know, what we hear about, is an even narrower subset. And yet, in Canada in 2024, there were over 128,000 victims of intimate partner violence. That's 356 victims per 100,000 Canadians aged 12 and older. That is more than one victim for every voter, for every person who lives in Nanaimo Ladysmith, Mr. Speaker. If victims of intimate partner violence were voters, they would fill an entire riding on their own. Women and girls are disproportionately affected. They experience intimate partner violence at 3.5 times the rate of men. When we look at homicides, the numbers become even more stark. Nearly 80% of those killed by an intimate partner are women and girls. When we get into minorities and Indigenous peoples, the numbers are even worse. These are not isolated incidents, Mr. Speaker. This is a pattern. And beautiful Vancouver Island is not immune. Communities on Vancouver Island face high pressure in this system. We see that not just in police files, but in wait lists and service demand. Hundreds of people in our communities are waiting for safe housing and support, with hundreds on wait lists for transition and second stage housing. That means people ready to leave violence often have nowhere to go. That means delay. And delay in these cases can be deadly. Laura Gover, a 41-year-old mother and professor at both Vancouver Island University and Camosun College, was murdered just this January in her home by her ex-husband the day before a court date, leaving behind 2 preteen daughters. Amy Watts was just 27 years old when she was thrown off a cliff to her death by her ex. In many of these cases, there are clear warning signs, prior incidents, opportunities to intervene. Too often, these opportunities are fleeting or missed. Abusers do not rely on violence alone. They isolate, they manipulate, they reshape their victim's world until it becomes smaller and smaller. They create a world where their victim begins to doubt their own instincts, loses their identity, then their confidence in the world around them, and ultimately their ability to leave. By the time the physical violence escalates, many victims are already trapped in ways that are not always visible from the outside. And it does escalate. That is what makes this issue so difficult and so dangerous. Our laws have simply not kept pace with reality. Bill C-225 takes important steps to close the gap. It creates specific offenses for violence against an intimate partner, recognizing that this is not the same as other forms of assault. It carries a higher risk of escalation and a higher risk of death. Bill C-225 establishes that when murder occurs in the context of intimate partner violence, particularly where coercive control is present, it should be treated as first-degree murder. That reflects the reality that these acts are rarely sudden, that they are the result of a pattern. These provisions remove the strain on families while they wait to see whether charges will be upgraded. It strengthens peace bonds by introducing reverse onus provisions, ensuring those who pose a risk are not released without serious consideration of the danger they present. And the bill allows for a 7-day period of custody for risk assessment, giving authorities the time needed to properly evaluate the threat and to take steps to further protect victims. The bill addresses how evidence is handled, recognizing that these cases often involve patterns of behavior over time, not just a single incident. These are measured, practical changes designed to intervene earlier and to prosecute more effectively. Because we've seen too many cases where the signs were there, where the risk was known, where the outcome could have been different. Bailey McCourt, Laura Gover, Amy Watts. We say their names. These are cases that weigh on our communities, cases that raise difficult questions about whether more could have been done. Bill C-225, Bailey's Law, is about doing better. It's about recognizing patterns of abuse before they escalate to the point of no return. It's about giving our justice system tools that reflect what we now understand about coercive control and intimate partner violence, and the tools that law enforcement needs to respond. And it is about sending a clear message that this kind of violence will be treated with the seriousness that it deserves. All of us in this place have spoken to survivors of intimate partner violence. All of us have tried to comfort grieving families. The question is no longer whether we understand the problem. The question is whether we are prepared to act. I admire my honorable colleague from Kamloops, Thompson Nicola, for bringing this bill forward after extensive consultation. The bill reflects the voices of victims, the work of advocates, and the painful lessons learned from cases that should never have ended the way they did, in trauma, in injury, in death. I applaud my colleague for working with community and in committee to come up with meaningful legislation to push back the evil, to make the system see, and to transform suffering into change. Passing this bill will not solve everything. There is more work to be done on prevention, on support services, and on ensuring that people have safe options when they need to leave. But Bill C-225 is a meaningful step. It acknowledges the reality of what victims face, and it moves us closer to a system that reflects that reality. We cannot keep responding after the fact. We must intervene earlier. We must take risk seriously. And we must put the safety of victims at the center of our approach. That is what this bill does, and that's why it deserves the support of every member of this House. May all of their memories be a blessing, and may they inspire this House to take all steps possible to end intimate partner violence. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.